Unit 9, Lesson 1, the surface area of prisms and cylinders. When we're talking about surface area and we're going to get into volume, these formulas are extremely long and can be somewhat complicated. So my suggestion to you is to write down these formulas 5, 6, and 7 times to make sure that you know these formulas inside and out. So let's go ahead and let's look at what is a prism? So a prism has two congruent faces, and those are called bases. So if you look at the prism to the left, we have the first base on top and the second base on bottom. Now, something to keep in mind. Just because a prism is sitting on what we would call a base doesn't mean it's its base. The base has to have two congruent faces. Okay? Now, the other thing a prism has is lateral faces, and those are just all the other faces. So these here are your lateral faces. They're the other faces that are on your prism. And then we have the lateral edges, which is what connects all of your lateral faces. And then last we have our height, which is the height of our entire figure. Not the height of our base, but the height of our entire figure. Okay. So what is the formula for a prism? The formula, or the surface area for a prism, is the area of our two bases, so 2 times the area of our base, plus our perimeter times our height. Now the perimeter is the perimeter of our base, and then our height is the height of the entire figure. So not the height of the base, but the height of the entire figure. So let's go ahead and let's look at some examples. Example 1, it says find the surface area of the right prism. Now, if you look closely, we can see both of our bases is A, B, C, and D, and E, F, G, H. Now, they're both the same, they're congruent, and they're our bases. We need to understand what figure our base is. So if you look, the figure of our base is a rectangle. Now we need to know what's the area of a rectangle. The area of a rectangle is base times our height. So our base is 10 and our height is 5. So 10 times 5 is the area of my base, which is 50. And now we need to know what is the perimeter of my base. Now remember, a rectangle, in a rectangle, opposite sides are congruent. So we know that the perimeter is 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5. So I went ahead and I did 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5, which gives you 30. And then we need to know the height of our entire figure. Now remember, it's not the height of the base, it's the height of the entire figure, which is 6. So our height is 6. Now we're going to multiply our perimeter times our height. So 30 times 6, which gives us 180. And now we're going to plug it into our formula. So our surface area formula is 2 times the area of our base, which is 50, plus our perimeter times our height, which is 180. So 2 times 50 is 100, plus 180 gives us 280 inches squared. Now let's look at example 2. Example 2, again, our base is a rectangle. So the area of a rectangle is base times height, and our base is 16 and our height is 4. So the area of my base is 16 times 4, which gives us 64. And then we're going to multiply our perimeter times our height. The perimeter, if a rectangle, that means opposite sides are congruent. So 16 plus 16 plus 4 plus 4. 16 and 16 gives us 32, and 4 and 4 gives us 8. So 32 plus 8 is 40. And then last, the height of our entire figure. And remember, the height of our entire figure is 9. Okay, that's the height of our entire figure. It's not the height of my base, it's my entire figure, which gives us 9. And we're going to multiply that. So 40 times 9 is 360. So now we're going to plug it into our formula. And our formula is 2 times the area of our base plus our perimeter times our height. So our 2 times our area, which is 64, plus 360, which is our perimeter times our height. So 2 times 64 is 128. I added that to 360, and I get 488 centimeters squared. Okay? Now let's go ahead and look at what if our prism is not a rectangle. So look at example 3. Our prism here, it says your base is not always on the bottom. Look for the two polygons that are opposite of each other. So look here. Now, if we notice this prism, our bases are actually a triangle. So I went ahead and I drew my triangle out. I took my base out of my figure, and that's always what you want to do. You always want to take your base out of your figure so you can figure out what the area is. So if you remember, the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times my height. In this triangle, I know my base. My base is 7, and it looks here, this is an equilateral triangle. So I've got 7, 7, and 7. So let's go ahead and actually look at the example. So actually went ahead and go ahead and not do example 3. We're actually just going to go ahead and do example 4. So I went ahead and I pulled out my triangle, and my triangle is equilateral. So it's 6, 6, and 6, okay? Now I know my base is 6, but I don't know my height. Remember that your height has to form a right angle, and so I actually have to put that in here. So the area of my base, remember, is 1/2 base times height. So I know that my side is 6, and my entire base of my triangle here is also 6. So if I went ahead and cut it in half, that means my new base is 3. So 3 squared plus b squared, because I don't know my height, is equal to 6 squared. Okay? So 3 squared is 9, so 9 plus b squared is equal to 36. I subtracted 9 from both sides. I got b squared is 25, and to get b by itself, I'm going to take the square root. So my height is 5, because the square root of 25 is 5. So it's 1/2 base times height. So it's 1/2. My base is actually 6. This actually says 3 up here. Can you please change that to 6? So that should be 6 times 5. So 1/2, what actually should be 1/2 of 30, because it's 6 times 5 is 15. And then 1/2 of 30 is 15. So actually the area of your base should actually be 15, okay? So it actually should be 15. So go ahead and change this down here actually to 15 as well. And then go ahead and change your 15 to 30, okay? So the perimeter is 6 plus 6 plus 6, which gives you 18, and the height of your entire figure is 10. So 18 times 10 is 180. So this actually, remember what we said, your area was actually 15. So 2 times 15 is actually 30. So please change this 15 to 30. So 30 plus 180 should equal to 210 inches squared. All right, let's go ahead and look at example 5. Now example 5 is a little bit trickier. I went ahead and I pulled out my base, and my base, it gave you, let's go ahead and look at the example here. So here, my base is 2, and my height is 3. So 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 my base times my height. So 1/2 base times height is 1/2 of 6 is 3. Okay, so that's my area of my triangle. But remember, I need to know the perimeter of my base as well. And if we go back and look at our example, it actually doesn't give us what the other side of our triangle is. So we need to go ahead and do the Pythagorean theorem. So I went ahead and I did the Pythagorean theorem. 2 squared plus 3 squared is c squared. So 4 plus 9 is c squared. And then we have c squared is equal to 13. 4 plus 9 is 13. So it's going to be the square root of 13. So 3 plus 2 plus the square root of 13 is 5 plus the square root of 13. Okay? And then the height of my entire figure is 4. So I went ahead and put 4. So let's go back to what is our formula? Our formula, our surface area formula is 2 times the area of my base plus 2 times the area of my base. Let's go up all the way. Here we go. 2 times the area of my base plus my perimeter times my height. So 2 times the area of my base. So my area of my base we found was 3. So 2 times 3 plus my perimeter, which we found my perimeter to be 5 times 4 is 20, square root of 13. So plus my perimeter is 20 plus 4 times the square root of 13, because we're going to go 4 times 5, which is 20, square root of 13. So then we have 6 plus 20 is 26 plus 4 square root of 13. And that is my surface area. All right, so now we're done with surface area of prisms. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about what's the surface area of a cylinder. So, surprise, we have a new formula. So the surface area of a cylinder is 2 pi r squared plus 2 times pi times radius times height. So example 1 says, find the surface area of the right cylinder. So let's go ahead and let's look at our example. So again, our surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi radius times height. So remember, the radius of my circle is 3 and the height of my entire cylinder is 4. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to plug in. So we've got 2 times pi times the radius. My radius is 3, so 3 squared, plus 2 pi times my radius times my height. My radius is 3 and my height is 4. So 3 squared is 9, so that's 2 pi times 9 plus 2 pi, 4 times 3 is 12. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply like terms here. So 9 times 2 is 18 pi, and then 12 times 2 is 24 pi. So we're going to go ahead and add like terms. So 24 plus 18 is 42, and we're just going to leave the pi. So 42 pi feet. Let's look at example 2. Again, my surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi radius times height. So in example 2, my radius is 4 and my height is 8. So 2 times pi times my radius is 4. So 2 pi 4 squared plus 2 pi times radius times my radius is 4 and my height is 8. So I went ahead, 4 squared is 16. So 16 times 2 is 32 pi, plus 2 pi, 8 times 4 is 32. 32 times 2 is 64, so this actually should be 64. So 32 and 64 is 96 pi meters squared. And then finally, for example 3, it says find the surface area of a right cylinder that has a diameter of 10 inches and a height of 10 inches. So my height is 10 inches, and remember that my radius, which is what I need because my surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi radius times height, and my diameter, my radius is half my diameter. So I'm just going to take my diameter, which is 10, I'm going to cut it in half, and I get 5. So 2 pi times radius squared, so that's 5 squared, plus 2 pi times my radius, which is 5, times my height, which is 10. So 5 squared is 25, and 5 times 10 is 50. So 2 times 25 is 50 pi, plus 2 times 50, which is 100 pi. I went ahead and added like terms, and I get 150 pi inches squared. And finally, my last one, my surface area, it says, find the height of the cylinder. The radius is 4 centimeters squared, and my entire surface area is 160 centimeters. So this one, it actually gives you your surface area, and it wants you to find your height. So it tells me that my surface area is 160. So 160, I went ahead and plugged that in, is 2 pi. It gives me my radius. So 4 squared plus 2 pi times radius, which is 4, times my height, which I don't know. So I just went ahead and put that my h there. So 160 is equal to 32, because 4 squared is 16. 16 times 2 is 32 pi, plus 4 times 2 is 8, so 8 pi times my height. So I have 160 is equal to 40 pi height. I went ahead and I divided by 40 pi on both sides, and 160 divided by 40, I went ahead and divided by 2, which gives me 80 over 20, and 80 over 20 is 40, so 40 pi is what my height is. Okay?